It's Lisa from Been There, Got Out. We are back today with our friend Charlie McCready from England. He is an alienation coach, and boy, is this timely. Right now, we are in the midst of the holiday season, and we've been getting a lot of calls from people who are really suffering. Um, Chris and I are working on a book as well as this big course on how to handle when your ex is trying to turn the kids against you. And Charlie, I see you, and this is right up Charlie's alley. This is some legal abuse. It kind of goes hand in hand because when you separate from an abusive ex, we like to say that they'll not only threaten but follow through on trying to make you homeless, penniless, and childless, and taking your children away, not just physically, but emotionally, where they turn them against you. It causes tremendous heartbreak, as well as a number of other things. And Charlie, I am so grateful that you've come back to talk to us about that, especially now.
It's
So thanks for,
amazing to be here, Lisa. Hopefully you can all hear me okay as well, just to make sure that works.
yes, yes, we
Wonderful.
can. Yeah. So I know you just had like someone awful thing happen. We've had clients having awful things happens too, and especially now it's a really difficult time because there's all this expectation about families and being together and these sort of Hallmark card moments, and people are really suffering because that's not the way it is. And then there's other strangers in the background going, well, that's not real. What you're experiencing isn't real because that doesn't exist. Can you talk a little bit about what's happened, if you want,
Yes.
with your friend and alienation in general, or whatever we want to call it? Like, let's not call it that. We can call it coercive control, abuse by proxy, poisoning, whatever.
Yeah, I'm quite happy just calling it parental alienation because it's something that people can actually associate with. And there seems to be an oversensitivity about let's not call it parental alienation because it's not being recognized by the courts and by the psychologists. People are kind of rooting around trying to find some new term for it. I mean, I'm quite happy just sticking
Lawyers
with what
still
it says
call
on the
it
tin.
that, like mental health professionals still call it that.
Yeah,
But I know, I'm an advocate too, but some advocates get very bristly with that
yeah,
word.
yeah. I mean, when it comes to courts, I typically encourage people to talk about the things that are recognized by the psychologists because then you have an easier conversation with the lawyers and therapists, etc. But just coming back to your point about Christmas, I mean, this is a really tough time of year, probably the hardest time of year for most parents, who, especially those who don't have the contact with their kids. And what I would encourage everybody to do is keep doing the things that you used to do. So if even when you don't have contact with your kids, send them presents, reach out to them, text them on the day, let them know that you're still there, that you love them and that you support them. But really importantly for you as the parents, look after yourself. And what I encourage your parents is don't wait until Christmas Day and then say, oh, what am I going to do with myself? Start thinking in advance. Say, okay, I need to be, and I will benefit from being in the company of other people. So think about, can you be with family? Can you be with friends? What are you going to do that's going to keep yourself busy? The last thing you need to be doing is spending this time by yourself. That will get you into the most trouble. Um, and also, just give yourself permission to have some fun on Christmas Day. It is okay to enjoy yourself because when you're not, you're basically doing the alienator's job for them. They
Right.
want you to be miserable. Why do you want to help them with that?
Right. We were talking today with someone earlier about how she's afraid to come to her child's games because of what her ex has said to her. And I
Mhm.
said, if they're already sending the narrative about you,
Yeah,
that you're unloving, unsafe, or unavailable. You being unavailable is basically continuing that narrative. So it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of support, but it's important for you to show up so your kid doesn't think, oh, that other parent doesn't care about me.
oh, totally. And I think that's an area that whatever we do is going to be wrong because that's the way that the alienators work. If you buy your kid a present, the alienators say, your mom or your dad is they're trying to bribe you.
Hmm.
If you don't buy them a present, then they'll say that you've abandoned them. So whatever you do is going to be wrong. What you're better off doing is doing something that is sending a message to your kids saying, I still care, I still love you, I still support you, I'm still thinking about you. And you do that by sending those communications or sending presents to them. Even if the present gets binned, that's less important than your child knowing that you sent something to them. And also just be prepared for the fact that especially kids who are with the other parent, or if they live with the other parent, the alienating parent, a lot of our presents will get binned because the alienating parent doesn't want this physical reminder of us in their house, or clothes the child is wearing, or a present that they might be playing with, or a video game that they're using. So a
Oh,
lot of the stuff is going to get put in the bin. That doesn't matter. What's
Yeah, us
important is
Americans say
no.
trash or garbage just in case they don't know what bin means.
Yeah, or in the garbage. Yeah. Lost in translation. Yeah, but yeah, so that's okay. Even if something gets put in the garbage, that's okay. You might want to think about how much money you're going to spend on your kid.
I'm going to ask you about that because that came up as an issue in our support group this past
Yeah.
weekend. But somebody wrote a comment. I want to just say it before you officially introduce yourself too, Charlie. They said they call this time of year the Bermuda Triangle between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Did you ever hear that before?
No,
Me?
that's new to me. But
Yeah,
I
that's
know that
really
alienators
interesting.
use triangulation a lot, so maybe there's a link in there as well. But
Yeah,
is there a third? I mean, Thanksgiving, Christmas, is there a third date that's
New
particularly
Year.
important? New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah, news is a bit of a funny one because it's you never know if it's going to be a good or a bad time. But yeah, I mean, certainly, I would say Thanksgivings and Christmas are the two really important ones
Yeah.
for at least
Yeah.
those are the ones that people feel they've missed the most. So, do you
Right. But
have?
I think the new year, it's like, oh, it's a new year and look at how it's been, and I'm scared about what's coming up, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Another year gone.
for me, it's more just a kind of a continuum of what you're facing. And
Yeah.
do you want me to just briefly kind of introduce myself as you
Yeah.
suggested?
I,
Otherwise, I'm just going
I'm like,
to
we're off
kick
to the
away.
races, and I want, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead,
So,
Charlie.
so in an absolute nutshell, yes, I'm Charlie McCready. I am a parental alienation coach. I provide daily insights and posts on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn that are designed to try and help parents who are going through parental alienation to get a better understanding of what you're dealing with and give you some practical hints and tips about things that can make a real difference for you and also helping you with your kids. So that's kind of
Yeah.
me in a nutshell.
Yes, and you are so needed, especially like I said, with our community where turning the children against the other parent just is par for the course.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to take everything, I'm going to punish you and destroy you. And the most heartbreaking part of that is making the kids turn away.
yeah. Can I say something unusual
Of
about
course.
Thanksgiving and Christmas? Because a really big theme for me, which I think gets overlooked a lot of the time, is we have this great propensity to focus on our kids. How are my kids doing? How can I help my kids? And we don't look enough at ourselves. And one of the big things about Christmas and New Year's, yes, you're going to miss your kids. That is going to be the case. But it's an opportunity for us. And it's a hard lesson, but look at why you're missing your children at Christmas. Look inside of yourself. Ask yourself what, because it's a safety issue for all of us. Uh, when we're feeling triggered, when we're feeling blocked, when we're feeling vulnerable, it's because we're not feeling safe. And part of part of what will help you in future Christmases is to say, what is it about this experience that is making me feel uncomfortable or unsafe? What am I missing? Because actually, it's about you. And each of us is different, but there will be something about not having your child with you that is probably related to some really old experience that you've got where you felt rejected, you felt excluded, you felt left out. And what's really going on with a lot of our experience of parental alienation is we're having these old traumas in our past reminded to us, and they're kind of manifesting themselves in the form of missing our kids. And when you
You know,
really spend the time going inside yourself, sorry, but when you really spend the time going inside of yourself, you'll start getting insights as to why you're feeling this. And I would encourage every parent to do that, because now you can actually start addressing those feelings, those emotions, and you can start letting go of those. And all of a sudden, Christmas and Thanksgiving, all things, they stop having the same impact on you. And you realize it's just another day. And most of it's quite commercial these days. I mean, the amount of people who are actually Christian and will actually go to a church and pray to Christ, and they'll pray to God on Christmas. It's a dwindling community. A lot of people, it's just about turkeys and having fun and having some red wine
And present.
and presents. It's quite commercial. It's quite a commercial thing, and you have to kind of say what's important is you being able to celebrate at some point with your kids, not even necessarily on Christmas Day, because the alienators always want to control special days, Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, proms, graduations, all that stuff. They want to manipulate and control all of those days.
Yeah.
And once you start saying, it's a day, it's another day, I'd like to be with my kids, but I don't need to be with them, it changes how you feel about it, and it reduces a lot of the pain.
Right. And easier said than done. And we talked about, it takes a lot of work to work through those feelings. We talked about the last time some of this parallels between some very strong emotions associated with legal abuse, being stuck in the court system with someone who's trying to wear you down and bleed you dry financially, and a parent whose kids have been turned against them. And we said a lot of times those feelings are rage, like anger at the injustice, and then a sense of despair, like this is never going to get better. I'm never going to get my kids back. They're always going to feel this way.
And I think, this is a kind of a theme that links in with the whole Christmas theme as well, and Thanksgiving, which is hope. Because when we're in the thick of things, we can feel very hopeless that, as you say, things are never going to improve. But the reality is, I would say, the majority of parents, we do end up having relationships with our kids. We have to recognize that they're different relationships, because depending on how badly the child's been affected, how we've been affected, the length of time this has gone on, we'll often find that the child is different by the time they're re-engaging with us. Also, we're different. And so we have to work with the new reality of who our child is. But most of us will end up back having a relationship with our kids. But it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right. And it's not something that just happens. It does take effort. We were talking to someone recently who was saying that they've been told, oh, karma's going to happen, the kids are going to see, and they feel like that's not true. And I said, well, I don't think it's a passive thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you can do and that you need to do to make it happen.
Absolutely. One of the big things that a lot of parents don't do is they don't spend enough time preparing themselves. So, if you've got a child who you have a limited contact with or no contact at the point in time that they are ready to start having a fuller relationship with you, you need to be ready. Because if you're rebuilding relationships is all about trust, basically your kid needs to feel that they're safe in your company. And that's as simple as they will approach you and they will talk about, hopefully, things that are going on in their life. And it's our job not to respond negatively. So the worst thing that we can do is when we've got a kid who starts being more open with us, exploring that relationship, and we go, oh, great, they've seen the light, they've understood that I'm not a bad parent, that the other person is a bad parent. And all of this anger and frustration that we've had built up inside of us for a long time all comes gushing out. And all that we do is we push our child away from us, because they're thinking, whoa, this is not a safe parent. This is an angry parent. This is somebody who's still got all this conflict going on with the alienating parent. I'm not ready for that yet. I only want to be with somebody that I feel safe with. So we have to be that parent for them. But the only way we can do that is we've got to be healed. So we've got to make sure we're not getting triggered, that we don't have our own issues. So
Lots of
trust
work.
Yeah, it isn't, but it's really important you do it, because Trust is as simple as if a kid talks about an alienating parent as part of kind of creating some confidence in us, but they'll do it casually because they want to have a normal relationship. They want to be able to talk about, their life with that other parent. They want that to be okay with us.
Mm-hmm.
But if we get triggered by the thought of, oh well, here's something you're doing that I'm still not involved in, that trigger can be as subtle as we change our tone of voice, we change our facial expression, we change our body language, we go silent. Um, here's something that most people don't take into account. We are electromagnetic beings. Our hearts are sending out an electromagnetic signal, typically about 12 foot around us, because we all know this stuff: high vibe, low vibe. You walk into a room, you pick up on where people are at immediately. You know if they're happy, you know if they're sad. So when we're with our kids, our bodies are sending out signals that our kids pick up on. So you kind of need to have two conversations going on in your head. The first conversation is, am I 100% focused on my kid and what my kid needs from me, which is love and support? And then the second conversation, which is the quiet one, what's going on within me? What's triggering me? How am I feeling? Am I doing everything in my power not to let this come between me and the conversation with my kid? Because as soon as you get caught up in your own issues, you can't focus on your child, and,
Yeah.
and trust will break down.
As you're talking about the energy exchanges, I'm thinking about something we teach all the time just in terms of presentation, and that's the 7-38-55% rule, is that people only pay attention to 7% of your words, 38% to your tone, and 55% to your body language. So that's 93% of tone and like almost unconscious things that you're doing. So that all has to match what's coming out of your mouth. So even if you're saying the right things, people feel when it's disingenuous, or, if there's still all this anger and resentment, which of course you're entitled to have.
Totally.
But you don't, you're saying you don't, that can't come out. You have to really be ready.
And I think that that links beautifully, Lisa, with the whole point about being healed within yourself. Because when you're genuinely healed, you're not getting triggered, you're not being upset. You are able to have a heartfelt conversation with your kid where you really are 100% focused on them. But when you're not healed, it's like a charade. You've got a mask on, and your kids will see through it. And one of the biggest issues for parents is they don't give themselves permission to go through the healing process because they feel guilty about spending the time on themselves. And they don't realize there's this critical link to, if you really want to help your kids, you have to help yourself. And you should be doing it for yourself anyway, because every alienated parent is worthy and deserving of having a good life.
Yeah, I mean, from like a lot of our clients dealing with this, I think it's very difficult because there's so much resentment. Like, why? Like, I've already, all of our clients are dealing with some type of domestic violence, most commonly emotional and verbal abuse. So all that psychological stuff, there's this resentment of like, I've already suffered so much with my ex, and now I'm continuing to suffer with my kid. And like, how do I process this feeling of like, why am I always the one who has to keep working on things? Like, I was a great parent. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah. And well, the simple answer for most of us is it's happening to us because of way old past experiences. I find there's a really strong connection. The majority of people who seem to end up with narcissists are empaths. And we're empaths because of the experiences that we had when we were younger. And very often it's because we haven't been given the love and support that we deserved as children. And so it might be something like an aloof parent. And we end up having to kind of work our socks off to get that parent to give us the love and support that we need. It's all about safety again. It's because we did not feel safe as kids. And also with those parents, we never felt that we could go through conflict because we were so busy trying to appease them that we couldn't have a conflict with them. So they basically undermined our confidence, they undermined our self-worth, and they made us people pleasers, which comes back to your point. It's like, because we're always trying to fix stuff.
Oh, that's going to resonate with so many people here.
And yeah, and so you end up with the narcissist. And one of the things we all find with the narcissist is we recognize broken person and we're fixers. So we say, I'll tell you what, I will invest myself in fixing this person, making them whole.
So familiar.
And we give of ourselves, and that becomes the relationship with the narcissist. They take, we give. And then it gets, but the worst thing is when we start facing alienation, now what we're getting is the narcissist is rejecting us, which reminds us of our past childhood experience. Even worse, our kid is rejecting us.
Right.
What do we end up doing? We end up trying to people please our kids. We end up walking on eggshells around our kids. And what's happening is we are terrified that we're not going to be able to rebuild that relationship. And it takes us all the way back to our childhood of not feeling confident. And it's a safety thing again.
Yeah, there's a comment I have to interrupt you with from Tish. We teach them that we don't matter.
Yeah, because that's how we act. That's genuinely how we act. And again, part of our healing is learning to have our own personal boundaries. And the crazy thing is, nobody can take your power from you. You have to give it away. You have to give it to them. And the narcissists are very good receivers. I mean, and that's actually another side little point. And I realize I jump all over the place, but it's kind of
That's
relevant.
okay, I do too.
I always ask parents, as just to make the point to them, I said, how good are you at receiving? How good are you receiving compliments? How good are you receiving presents? And most of us find it cringy. It's like, oh, I don't like that. The spotlight's on me. I'm being given stuff. I'm not used to other people basically showing me signs of love.
Wow.
Because
Very, very interesting.
we've had to work so hard for it.
Yeah.
And we have to learn to kind of recalibrate ourselves to acknowledge we are beautiful, wonderful people, every single one of us. We deserve that love. And until we love ourselves, it's very difficult to get other people to love us.
Yeah, but I think even just recognizing that is so significant.
Huge.
Well, you've just blown me away. Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about stuff with myself, but that one hit really hard about not feeling comfortable with being the center of attention, not being comfortable with receiving, and being drawn to people to give all the time.
Yeah, and we spend way too much time looking outside of ourselves as to the reasons why we are acting in certain ways, which are basically our coping mechanisms. You know, that the narcissists use control, they use manipulation as their controlling mechanisms for their own insecurities and vulnerabilities because they are terrified of the world around them. But our coping mechanisms are giving, depleting ourselves. You know, that's we have to look at ourselves and go, why am I doing that? And then the best bit we have to change. And this is where our dear friend discomfort comes into the equation. Because when we decide to change, it's uncomfortable and it doesn't feel right. I always use the example of if a waiter comes up to an empath in a restaurant and you're having a bad experience, the empath will normally go, I'm fine. Everything's dandy. I don't, because they don't want the conflict. They feel they're not worthy of saying, you know, even though you are the client, I'm not worthy of telling you if I'm having a bad experience. And then we feel bad about not having stood up for ourselves to a waiter whose job it is to make sure that we're having a good experience at that place. So I say to every parent, your subconscious has now got this deep-seated belief you're not worthy. Your conscious mind can replace whatever you want to believe by just consistently doing things that will kind of help your subconscious overcome this fear. So if you say to the waiter, first time he comes around, your subconscious going, no, don't say anything. Consciously, you have to go, I'm going to complain about this meal. It'll be a horrible experience. You will feel deeply uncomfortable, but you'll get through it. Not only you'll say what you need to say, the waiter will fix it. Horrible. Second time you do it, it's a bit easier because guess what? The first time you were safe. Nothing bad happened to you apart from you feeling uncomfortable. Third time you do it, starts getting easier again because you've now been safe twice. By the
We
time
say
you've done,
fake it till you make it.
yeah, by the time you've done it 10 times, you're a different person
Mm.
because your subconscious is going, this is okay. Now you're calling the waiter over saying, hey, this is not right with my food because you know you're safe and you've literally reprogrammed yourself. So
What a
change,
great exercise to practice.
get on.
I'm thinking for all of our clients in particular, like what a
Yeah,
wonderful exercise, like practice on a waiter where you're safe
yeah.
and basically saying, I don't like something and dealing with that discomfort where nothing bad is going to happen. I mean, we hope they don't spit in your food, but just,
But they
but
won't.
you know, you can be polite and say like, it's a little bit cold. Like, could you please heat it up? I know I hate complaining,
Yeah.
especially in our, that is a great exercise. I'm going to use that.
But you can
Thank you so much
you can use
for that.
you can use it for everything. You know, it's
Yeah.
like use it because when we're getting alienated from our kids, we are so afraid of the kids rejecting us that we don't kind of present ourselves as a more confident boundary setting parent. And again, it's uncomfortable when we turn around to a kid that we think is going to say no, use the power of no and just reject us. But when you push yourself, you have to consciously push yourself. It feels really uncomfortable. But very often the kids will then start behaving themselves a little bit better. Or the narcissist will back down a bit because they're just a bully. You know, I would I would encourage everybody, the more uncomfortable it is, the more you're growing.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we teach a lot with communication, people, especially in communicating with their co-parent, which we know is often a counterparent, and people want to just pop off and say what comes natural, or even in presenting to an evaluator, a custody evaluator, they just want to say how they feel, and it's the opposite. You need to, the thing that feels comfortable, you need to not say. That's when you know, like, I need to talk to somebody who knows what I'm not supposed to say and what I'm supposed to say and get help with that until it becomes natural and you learn how to present better. It's the same, Charlie, there's so many parallels between what you're talking about and what we do as well.
I can imagine. Well, it's basically mindset shifts, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's seeing the world in a different way. And I encourage everybody to take any situation and look at it differently. Try to see the positive that you're getting out of it. You know, it's a bit like the crazy thing of saying for Christmas, make it your teacher.
Yeah.
What's it telling you about you? What's it telling you about what you're missing in your life? Because it's not just related to, oh, I'm missing my kid on a particular day, or I'm missing my kid. It's actually telling you at a very fundamental level why you're not feeling safe.
Yeah. And what you just said about looking at things that make us uncomfortable, I'm thinking as opportunities. I told you I spent 10 years in the legal system. I represented myself for 7. I was in court about 100 times. It was
Wow.
awful. But now, I mean, there were so many triumphs, like personal triumphs along the way. And then the case getting published as case law with me doing it myself, like things that are unheard of. Like it was, I never realized, like going through it,
Mm-hmm,
lots of suffering,
mm-hmm.
but I always say I got my best education in the trenches because we'd never be able to do what we do if I didn't have to go through all of that.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
the same kind of thing. Like you don't realize how bad things can help you grow. It sounds really trite, but it is an
But
opportunity.
that's exactly what I was going to build on what you were just saying, Lisa. It's one of the things that the don't, parents of alienated kids basically have to become what I call super parents because you have to get through your own issues in your own healing in order that you can help your kids. Now, going through that process really helps you. So that's fantastic for you in any circumstances. It'll also really help your relationship with your child. But you also have to support all these other people around you. You have to support yourself, you have to support your kids, you have to support any new partners in your life, you
Mhm.
have to support your family, your friends. But the thing you also really learn is love at a whole new level because in a normal family circumstance, loving your kids pretty easy. Yeah, they can be a bit difficult, but most of the time they're there, they're available, they're not rejecting you, part in their teen years, and kind of everybody's quite loving towards each other. when you've got a kid who's rejecting you, loving a child that is spurning you, now that's hard. That teaches you love at a whole new level, or being
Mm,
compassionate towards that child, looking beyond their bad, not their bad, but their coping behaviors. The mechanisms they're using to keep themselves safe, like not speaking to you or being rude to you, and recognizing that's what's really going on. And
yeah.
don't get caught up in the drama.
I did a webinar about a year ago that we're going to bring back out again, and it was on how to handle when your ex is turning the kids against you. And part of it, I talked about the perspective of the child, and we said how a lot of times there's heartbreak underneath their hostility. They have
Mm-hmm.
ideas about you that they've absorbed, however they've absorbed them,
Yeah.
and they're really watching to see if you're different than what they've been
Mm-hmm.
told. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why one of the worst things is to stay away, because you think, well, my ex is saying that if I show up to my kids' sporting event, that they're going to be embarrassed of me being there. They're going to be angry that I showed up, but you have to show up, because
Absolutely.
that's an opportunity to prove, like, I'm going to be here, like, I love
Yeah.
you anyway, and I'm also going to stand up to that fear of my ex. We say an abuser's greatest tool is fear. I have to give that credit to our friend Steve, the bodyguard, but an abuser's greatest tool is
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much fear associated with this, of like, what if my kid does this? It's like, but what if they don't?
Exactly. Exactly. I would encourage every parent to, I mean, I talk about kind of the three big things of alienation. The first one is understanding what your kid is going through. Because when you have a much deeper understanding of what your child is going through, it enables you to turn up at like the sports events and be okay with the fact that they're not going to speak to you. They're not going to give you a hug.
Yeah.
They probably won't even look to you. They are going to be feeling uncomfortable. And the reason they're feeling uncomfortable is because they're afraid of the consequences of the alienating parent,
Right.
for them having some kind of a relationship with you, which they're not allowed to have. So your kid's going to be like that, but your kid is also going to respect the fact and be thankful that you have turned up, because although they kind of are uncomfortable about you being there, the message is, I love you, I care for you, I've shown up for you, even
Right.
if you can't
And
speak to me.
standing up, I'm standing up against what you can't right now.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is, when you don't go to those events, you're just giving into the alienator again.
Right. Again, you're making that narrative more true,
Yeah,
that you're not available, that you don't care.
yeah. And this
Wow.
this this thing that you were talking about, being what you say being only 7% of the way that you communicate with your kids. So many parents have this burning desire to be able to share their values, their wisdom, their experience with their child. That's one of the big things that a lot of parents miss out on. And the relationship with the kid has changed. The kid is no longer looking for advice from you. They're
Mm-hmm.
now kind of more peer to peer. So your parent with a little p, you're a coach. You're not the person who's going to tell them how to conquer the world and what time to go to bed. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to adapt. We have to recognize this difference, and be different with our kids. Um, but I've lost my train of thought where I was
Oh,
going to go.
I was caught on the, like, parent with a little p. I was just reading that.
Yes, so
The
basically,
relationship has
yes,
changed. They're not looking to you for advice and guidance like you're here and they're here as a child. The
yes,
power dynamic has
I'm
changed.
back with it. Yeah, just having a senior moment. Yeah, so we want to be able to kind of share all these experiences and our values with the kids. And we can't do it because we're now a parent with a little p, we're now the coach. So we can't tell them how to conduct themselves. We can't tell them what we think is, good parenting, because that's what we would
Mhm.
normally do. We'd say, well, you
Right.
do this and you do that. And you have to do it by being the example of the person you want them to experience.
Hmm.
So it's a really big shift for us, that we have to kind of be very consciously aware. Yes, I'm saying stuff, but how do I treat people? How do I talk about people in general? Am I showing, any bad behaviors? Because everything that we do will be picked up by the kid. Like
Mhm.
literally everything do. And as you say, it doesn't matter what you say, it's how does the rest of what you're doing fit with what's coming out of your mouth, including your level of confidence. So if you want to, we could still get the opportunity, even with a highly alienated kid, we still get the opportunity to influence them, but we have to do it in a completely different way and be aware that we're doing it that way.
Yeah. Wow. So of course I had a list of things I wanted to talk to you about. We're not going to get to them. So this is just part 2 of many, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I wanted to,
Very happy
because
to, there's so much to talk about.
I know. I mean, I think we should do a series, Charlie, because this is, again, so vital to helping people in our shared communities. But because it's the holidays and we talked a little bit about gifts, someone earlier was asking about the right amount to spend on an 8-year-old, I believe. I wanted to bring up some things that came up with people that we know to get your input, because I thought this is perfect timing.
Absolutely.
So a number of our parents, people in our community are dealing with false allegations. And so some of them are dealing with supervised visitations because they're still working through stuff with their exes and they have very limited contact with the kids. So the idea about presence has come up. Like, what do I do if, and you started talking about this before, I want to give my kids a present, but I know that my ex is going to throw it out. Oh.
No. Sorry. I just realized my battery, that's terrible planning. My mic is going to change as well, but
okay. Oh, your battery. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep talking. So anyway, so this person who's in supervised visitation, it's the holidays, they want to give their child gifts, but they know that their ex is going to throw everything away. And so there's one in particular where the child, the parent brought a couple of gifts for the child for the holidays during the supervised visitation, and then didn't want the child to take the presents back to the alienating parent because they knew that they'd be thrown away. And the child, very young child, was like, but this is mine. This is my present. How should that target parent, the one who has so little time with the kid, deal with that? You said about binned, like the presents are going to get thrown out. We know that. And the child saying, but it's mine. It's mine. Like, what are your thoughts? I had a couple of ideas on how that parent's supposed to act because their presents get thrown away.
I would just accept the fact the present's going to get thrown away. I would leave it as the relationship between the kid and the alienating parent, because if you hold back the present, then the child will hold you responsible for not having it, and you will never kind of provide the opportunity for the alienating parent to show their true colors by throwing that present away. Either way, the kid's not going to have the present. You can always buy another.
Good point.
You can. Nothing is not replaceable. If the child then starts spending more time with you, buy another one. It'll be $20, $30, $40, whatever it is. So what?
Yeah.
It's money.
Great point. I was thinking when I heard that story, when the child was saying, but this is mine, I saw it as that's probably a conversation that's happening in the other parent's home when the parent is throwing away that child's toys and presents from our person, and the child's going, why are you doing this? This is my toy. Why are you throwing away my toys or my things that belong to me?
I know it sounds a bit manipulative ourselves, but you're actually enabling the child to see what that alienating parent is actually doing.
Yeah, great point. Okay, here's another one for you based on holidays. So we have a situation where the child made a wish list on Amazon. And this is another supervised visitation, so the person doesn't see their child regularly. They see them regularly, but they don't have the opportunity to give them, to do it the way that a lot of other families do.
And the kid's not at home being able to enjoy playing with that present in the comfort of that parent's home.
So the child wrote a wish list. The alienating parent bought all the good stuff on the wish list and announced it in writing to our person, who was like, I can't get the kid anything that they want because you already took all the stuff off the list. And then the other parent said, well, I'll sell you the gifts that I got. And then our person was like, okay, I'll buy like the really nice thing. And then the alienating parent was like, no, you can't have that one. You can get the kids something like some type of, I'll say, clothing that they need that they wouldn't be excited about.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I was like, wow.
I would just go off and buy something that's not on the list, and I wouldn't buy something practical and unexciting. I mean, most of us have got an idea of what our own kid or a kid of our age would want. You know, what's going to be fun? Go and buy them something like that.
Yeah, I was like, don't you dare buy gifts from your ex.
You're just playing the alienators game. Again, this is all about their control and manipulation, and they want us to feel awkward because it's back. Do you know what? That's all the stuff that makes us feel unsafe, because we feel within us, I'm not able to give my child what my child needs, and that is us feeling bad, rather than what it's not actually how our child is thinking at all. It's our response, which is why I keep coming back to this healing stuff, because when you get past it, you go, okay, just elevate yourself out of the situation for a moment to go, right, this person's trying to manipulate what I'm giving my kid. They're shutting down all my options. My kid is 8 years, 10 years, 14 years, whatever. The world is full of stuff that they would like to have. So I will go and find something else that I think they would like to have, and they'll get it. And whether or not it goes in the garbage, hey ho. All the kid knows is, I care about it and I give them that present. And don't.
Yeah.
I think the trap that we get caught in is we overthink. We get caught in the drama that the alienator is trying to create for us, and we buy it hook, line, and sinker. And now we're feeling
it's the same power dynamic.
Yeah.
Like, I'll let you buy the presents that I decide, and you need to, like, I'm dangling you.
Change the game. It's like what I was saying before. Look, whatever is going on, look for the positive. Look for the different angle. Make that your reality. Go off the list. Who cares about the list? The list has become a device to control everybody and everything. So ditch it.
Yeah, I was thinking just to have a conversation with your child, pretend you never saw the list and be like, what are some things you're thinking of, and have some ideas yourself and say, what do you think of this? What do you think of that?
Or make it a little, a little secret between you and the child. Make it fun. Tell me tell me, give me some, several ideas. What's some of the stuff you'd like?
That maybe you didn't put on your list that you forgot.
Yeah.
Because the kids always have more
one
stuff.
of them. It'll be a surprise. Yeah. Or just tell them it'll be a surprise for you. Just there's when you put your mind to it and be a little bit more creative, there's lots of different angles that you can take on this.
Yeah. Oh,
just don't get caught, don't get bogged down what the alienators, because they're always trying to put us in little straitjackets and control us.
Yeah.
And we fall for it.
Always. Unless you have support saying, no, this is the truth and this is what you know, and I'm just going to remind you, and then people calm down and they're like, I feel better. Already. I mean, I know this conversation is making people feel better already.
Good.
Just because it's validating and it makes sense.
And also hold on to hope. I think that's probably one of the biggest things, especially around Christmas. Never lose sight of hope. Just, it's not the way you want it to be today, but that's just today. The reality is it sucks today, but in the future, it'll all be different. And when you get to that future point, you'll look back and kind of all the todays you went through were a lot less important. You're not going to really focus on them. You're going to focus on where you want to go. And actually, that's how we live our lives. We spend way too much time looking in the rearview mirror. In fact, our subconscious is jam-packed full of rearview mirror memories. You wouldn't get in your car and only ever look out the rear window to see where you want to go in terms of going forwards. You have to look out the windshield. So as parents, you should, and again, this is all related to your healing. As parents, you need to stop focusing on all the stuff that's giving you all the pain right now and all the stuff that's difficult right now. Start thinking, into the future. Where do I want to be? What is the relationship I want to have with my kids? What do I want my life to look like? Start putting some positive energy into the things that will give you positive outcomes. Don't dwell on all the negative stuff all the time.
Yeah, I mean, this is super helpful. And we talked earlier about power and how you have a lot more power than you think you do. I know people dealing with alienation often come to us and they're like, I got to figure out what I can do in the court system. We say, there's stuff you can do in the court system. This is not one of, there's some things you can do legally when this is happening, certainly, but especially as the kids get older, it's outside of the courts. There's so much you can do where other people aren't making decisions for you. So I think it kind of, for our people who are dealing with legal abuse, the court stuff goes hand in hand, but there's, again, like the support is outside. The validation is not in the legal system. And again, you have a lot of agency over what you can do to try to
you have to connect back with your own power, because again, being empaths, we kind of get brought into this whole sense of I don't have that power and I can't do this and I can't do that, and we turn very negative. And actually it's a conversation that our friends the alienators have begun in our head. And I think I talked about the last time, but I'll just repeat it again quickly because it's so helpful.
Yeah.
We have 9 big emotions. We get grief, which is the loss of the child that we've already experienced, the time we've lost already, time we're losing today, time we expect to lose in the future. We have guilt. We're empaths. We're really good at beating the hell out of each other. Out of ourselves. We don't need anybody else to beat us up.
Right.
We do it to ourselves. If you're a woman, there's shame, because the other women around you are saying, you must have done something wrong by virtue of the fact your kid is not with you and is with, a dad. Then we've got isolation, because nobody else understands this stuff. So we feel really alone. Even our friends and family can't support us. The psychologists can't support us. The therapists, the lawyers, the judges, nobody's supporting us. There's powerlessness. We talked about the thing about the gift. If you buy a gift, it's bribery. If you don't buy a gift, you've abandoned your kid. So whatever we do is wrong. That makes us feel really powerless. And there's injustice. All this stuff that's going on. I mean, this is just so awful for us to try and comprehend. How can this possibly be happening to us? Which leads to anger, because we get really frustrated about everything. Then there's anxiety. And the anxiety is us creating all these scenarios in our head. What if this happens to my child? What if that happens to my child? Are they safe? Are they doing okay? What's happening to their grades? Are they getting the right food? We're creating all this stuff in our head, which we emotionally live through as if it was real. This is why we don't have sleep. This is why we have aching chests. This is why we're kind of very disturbed. And then there's fear. And fear controls a lot of that narrative. What's really going on is that the alienators start that conversation in our head. And I describe it as like a marathon. So they run the first 100 yards with a baton that has grief and guilt and shame and fear and isolation and anxiety and all these things inside of it. Then they give it to us. They go, there you go. And we go, thanks. And we start running. And we're running. We're running. If we're not careful, we're still having that conversation with ourselves years later. And we are looping. So it's like there's a link with all the stuff from discomfort and reprogramming yourself. With our basically whatever is in your mind will go into your subconscious, which is just like a problem solver. So if you're thinking grief, guilt, fear, anxiety, your subconscious is going, okay, Lisa, you want me to think about grief and guilt and anxiety. Give me a couple of hours. I'll get back to you. And it does. It wakes you up. It gets into your dreams. You're driving your car. You're doing your job. You're eating a meal. You're watching TV. Suddenly, up it pops. Now it's back up in your conscious mind. And your conscious mind now starts kind of turning it over. And all that's happening is you're now preparing it to go back down to your subconscious. And we loop. We just go around and around and around and around. So the alienator started the conversation. You're the only person who can stop it. But there's a link, and I'm going to get to a bowl of spaghetti here in a second. This will intrigue your audience. So that the link is that the grief that you're experiencing is your personal version of it. It's different to everybody else's version of grief. The same thing applies to guilt and injustice and all these other emotions. A lot of this stuff is linked back to your past experiences. It's the stuff that made you feel unsafe in the past is now manifesting itself as grief and guilt and injustice in the current. But it's all your old insecurities. And this is where the bowl of spaghetti comes in. If you can imagine that your subconscious is like this big ball of spaghetti. It's kind of this Gordian knot, this amorphous mass of just lots of strands of spaghetti. The only way that you can successfully deal with this stuff is you have to start unpicking it. Pull out a strand, give it a name, grief. Look at it, inspect that strand and say, so what am I actually feeling? What am I actually experiencing here that I'm giving this name, grief? And you'll typically find it goes back to some past experience of something that made you feel unsafe. And it'll maybe be associated with rejection, maybe something to do with loss. It'll be something specific. You spend the time on it, you dig it up. You might find there's 2 or 3 things that have this connotation with grief. But at least you now have one piece of spaghetti that has grief written on it, and you now know what that stuff is, because now you can deal with it. You can deal with it spaghetti strand by spaghetti strand, and you basically just start going through all your triggers, all your blockers, all your expectations. Wonderful one. When our kids are born, we create in our mind. It doesn't exist anywhere. In our mind, we create all these ideas what our kids' life is going to be like, what they're going to do, how they're going to be when they grow up, what our role is going to be, their prom, their 15th, their 16th birthday, their 21st birthday, they get married. We create all these ideas in our heads, and then we nurture them and we cherish them, we hold on to them. And then when our kid is being alienated, our expectations and our expectations and the reality are now completely mismatched.
Mm-hmm.
But we're holding on to these ideas in our head about how life was going to be. The person who's giving us pain is us. It's kind of not all related to the reality of what's going on. Once you start accepting that reality and go, okay, I don't like what's going on, but it is going on. I'm going to make a conscious effort to accept that, but on the basis that this is just for a transitionary period. So I have hope, and I believe that this is going to be okay in the future. But right now, it's pretty awful. Once you start changing your expectations, you now have a different conversation within yourself because you're no longer beating yourself up about it. That's another one of the spaghetti strands. So it's all about unpicking your own bowl of spaghetti to say, what are all these things that is basically making me feel unsafe?
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, I have loved this conversation. Of course, an hour has gone by already. We have to go soon because we have more clients, even though I know it's the end of your day all the way across the pond. But we have got to get together again. And before we do that, why don't you say how people can find you? I know well, before you say that, I'll just say we have a whole course on this coming up that we've been working on for a year. We have a book coming out next year on this topic. And Charlie, you're going to be a big part of this collaboration because your wisdom and insight are so vital to the people in this community. So I really appreciate that. And now please tell everyone how they can find you.
And I should just say, I'd be really happy to do lots more sessions with you. And I'm very conscious of the fact I'm so passionate about this. I can easily go off in all directions. But yeah, we could even think about doing a little series of specific topics.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm always so keen for parents to understand what they can do, how they can make a difference, how they can heal, how they can start experiencing alienation in a different way that is a lot less painful for them and gives them the opportunity to really help their kids a lot more. But yeah, in terms of getting a hold of me, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I've got a personal page, I've also got a group page. You just pop my name in.
And you have
It should
book,
come.
right?
I don't have a book. We're kind of thinking of that.
I thought I saw there's like some ebook. There's
Oh,
something. You
yeah,
have
yeah.
something.
I've got some e-guides. So
E-guide. Okay, that
yeah,
book in
yeah.
my head.
So yeah, I know it looks like a book cover.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So I've got a couple of e-guides. One of them is called the 4 Steps to Beating Parental Alienation, and it's kind of it gives you an overview of what are some of the key things that you can do that can help to make a difference. And I've also got another e-guide which is a self-assessment toolkit, because everybody sits on a spectrum of those three things: the kid, the alienator, and you. And it helps you to kind of work out your particular experience of what's going on with your kid, the sort of alienator you're dealing with, and you in terms of how well you're dealing with it. And then also I have my website, which is nice and simple, charliemccready.com. There's a very good blog, if I say so myself, a good blog in there about what is parental alienation. And also I provide coaching and the 9-step program. So coaching is basically a nice flexible way for people to access an hour with me. They can either run through a little process or they can come to me for point expertise. And the 9-step program is a package that basically helps them to go from understanding their kids, understanding themselves, understanding the alienator, and creating their own unique plan of action that says, okay, this is all the stuff I need to change and how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It's very, I'm very practical. I'm not into this
That's
wishy,
us too.
you know,
Practical, actionable tips that you can do right now.
Totally. Yeah. It's got to be stuff that will really make a difference for you and your kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. As soon as we get off and I post this, we're going to schedule another one.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, let's definitely get. I mean, let's do it. Let's just do something every month.
Okay. Sounds
I'd really
great.
love to do that.
All right.
Because you're so marvelous, Lisa. What you and your partner are doing is just fantastic.
Thank you. And as you're saying that, I'm like, oh, attention, it's hard to take a compliment.
It's the empath coming out again.
Yeah. Wow. I really learned a lot. So thank you again, Charlie. And we'll be in touch soon. And happy holidays.
And a very happy Christmas to everybody. You are all super people and super parents. I love you all.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.